What's up, guys? My name is PJ, and today I'm excited to share with you a concept that I've been thinking about for a while, possibly even for over 10 years, because I have been, playing role-playing games, not really anymore, but I used to play a lot of role-playing games when I was younger, and there were certain few ones that I really liked, like Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Mass Effect was my favorite one, Fallout, and some other ones here and there. But this has been something that has been kind of building up. These concepts that I'm going to talk to you about, these are things that have been building up within me for quite a long time. Ever since I first played this game called Oblivion, it just sparked so many ideas and so many ways of looking at the world and so many perspectives within me that they have just been building up and building up and building up. And even though I don't really play those games anymore, I still have so much love for what they have taught me. And I want to share with you some of those perspectives that I have gained from playing those games, because I believe they apply so well to life and how life is structured. It's like those games imitate life the most accurately, and whether consciously or subconsciously, the people who have made it have input so many wise ideas and so many accurate representations of life within those games that I think we can all learn a lot from. Now, whether or not you played those games or not, or have ever played video games at all, I think that is besides the point, because what I'm going to draw from them and share with you could be applied to you whether or not you've ever played any of those games. And for me, like I said, I haven't played role-playing games or Xbox or PlayStation or any of those things in quite a long time. The last time I had a console was probably in 2013, and ever since then I haven't really played any video games. But the lessons that I gained from these games were so deeply ingrained in me that they honestly shaped a big chunk of the rest of my life. And so I'm going to share with you some of those lessons, as I believe they will be helpful for you too. And if you did play video games, and especially role-playing games, then I believe this video is going to be quite interesting and enjoyable for you. So let's begin. Point number one, or the first similarity that I have found between role-playing games and real life, as we call it. So let's begin. Point number one, fixed beginning and fixed endings, with S at the end, multiple endings depending on your choices, but one fixed beginning. So basically, in these video games, in most of them, or at least the ones that I really liked and played, everyone who plays the game, everyone starts at the same place. So whether your character is of a certain race or ethnicity or whatever, the starting point of the story in the game is all the same, no matter what your appearances are and X, Y, and Z. But there are like 3 or 4 endings, set in stone endings, possible endings to the game that, based on your choices, you will select throughout the game. So basically, in most of these games, each character starts at a certain point, like I said, at the same point for every character, whoever plays the game. But throughout the game, your choices determine which ending, which outcome gets selected and gets, so to speak, manifested in the game for you. So basically, each character goes through the game, and as they're going through the game, they have these choices that they can make. And different choices lead to different outcomes, and out of those 3 or 4 select endings, one of them gets selected out of those endings for your character. And so that will be the ending that you will experience. And think how the game may have 3 endings, and one of them is considered to be the best ending to the game. One of them is like the neutral or the medium ending. And then the third one is like the worst ending that could possibly happen. And I believe all of us, when we come into this life, it's kind of the same thing for us. So we have these certain endings, like where we're gonna basically start the game is already determined. And these are spiritual concepts that I have gotten from Hinduism, and A Course in Miracles, and other traditions have also spoken about these kind of things. But for me, this is more of a spiritual perspective that we can draw from those games as well. So it's like, once you have the spiritual perspective, you can actually see more clearly what's really happening in the game. But nonetheless, let's go back to the games and talk about how the beginning is already set in stone. And then the ending, you can also argue that it's set in stone, but it's like we have choices as which of these three set in stone endings. So like I said, ending one, ending two, ending three, which one of those gets selected, that's up to you. That's up to you how you play this game of life. You being the character of this game of life, how you play it and what choices you make ends up selecting one of those three destined outcomes. So for me, I feel like we all come into this game and this game of life, and it's already selected. The starting place is already selected, where you're going to be born, who your parents are going to be, what circumstances you're going to be born in, that's already selected. But which ending gets selected out of those three choices, that's up to you, and your choices determine that. So as you go throughout the game, the choices that you make will end up manifesting one of those three outcomes, either the highest outcome or the neutral or the medium outcome or the worst outcome. And I believe for all of us, those things are also set in stone. It's almost like you, as person A, you have these three outcomes that you can graduate from this game of life with. So it's up to you and your choices which one of those outcomes, whether the highest or the medium or the worst, happens in this life. And so it's almost like this game of life is a classroom, and depending on what choices you make, whether we choose to study or take a certain extracurricular activity X, Y, and Z, it determines whether or not we pass the class. And by passing the class, I mean you select the highest possibility and the highest outcome for your life. So I think it's a really fun way to think about that, to think that you have a highest destiny, a highest path that you can graduate this game of life with. And it's up to you whether or not that happens. But instead of being afraid of that, you should be empowered by the fact that your choices and your decisions have so much power, and that it is up to you what destiny gets manifested for you. In a sense, we already have a destined path, but you can say that we have like our highest destined path, our neutral or medium destined path, and like the worst path. So let's say like you go through, actually, let me segue to this next point, because I believe this next point number 2, is going to tie in very well with what I'm talking about right now. And it's actually going to be able to shine a light more on these concepts that I'm talking to you about. This second point ties in very well with the first point that I mentioned, and it talks about crucial choice points. I called point number 2 crucial choice points because throughout each of our lives, we are presented, each day of our lives, we are presented with thousands of choices that we can make right now. And not all of these choices are equal in nature, but there are those crucial choice points. And each of these games, especially like there was one that I really liked. This game was probably my favorite game of all time, to be honest with you. And it was called Mass Effect. And throughout that game, you had maybe 8 or 9 choice points that were of a much higher importance than the other choice points. And within that game, depending on which choices you made during those crucial choice points, like I said, there may be 1,000 other choices in the game or in this game of life that we have to make. But those crucial choice points, they in that game determined the final outcome of that game. So that game, for example, Mass Effect, had maybe 3 endings that were already set in stones. The people that had made the game, those were the 3 possible endings that could have happened. It's not like there's an infinite number of endings that could happen and it's just random. It's 3 set in stone endings, and it's your choices during those 8 critical choice points in the game that selected which one gets manifested. And I'll put a diagram here. This is a drawing that I made, so bear with me as I try to replicate it here. But basically, as your character, you being the character of your life or your player in the game, as you are going through the game, you will be presented with these 8 crucial choice points. And for ourselves, we can think of those in our lives as those big decisions that many other decisions in your life stem from and come from. So for example, where you move to, where you live, who you marry, where you go to school, what you select for a job as your first job, and all these things, these decisions, these significant decisions, so many other thousands of decisions get, brought about based on those decisions. So for example, like the decision to move to a different country, like as I have experienced as an immigrant, that one decision has led to 1,000 other decisions. So it's like the trajectory of my life has changed based on that one decision. So that's definitely a crucial choice point because of how many other important decisions it has led to. So now, in each of our lives, we have these crucial choice points, and what we decide in those choice points, it like navigates our path. So you can think of this character in the game going through and then it encounters 3 choices right here. So in this choice point, let's say it makes choice A. And then from choice A, it moves forward. And then again, another crucial choice point has 3 choices, A, B, C. And then in this one, it chooses point B. And then it keeps going and it makes these different choices. And these different choices at each of these crucial choice points, it's like they add up, and then the cumulative result of each of those is the outcome that gets selected. The way I think about it sometimes is like each of these points has like a rating associated to it. So let's say in choice point number 1, there is like 20 points to point 1, point A. There is like 10 points to B, and there's 5 to C. So if you choose the highest one, the 20.1, you score. It's like your total score is going higher. So you choose that one. And then your second choice point, let's say you choose point B, and in that situation, that is the one that has the most points. So you're basically racking up these points, and then at the end of the game, the way it works is like if you have more than let's say like 70 points, then the best outcome gets selected for you. If you have more than, it's literally like passing a class or passing a grade. It's like you still pass it if you get like more than 50%, but 50 to 70%, even though you pass, it's like not the highest outcome. Under 50, it's like you fail the class. Like that would be the lowest outcome that could be selected, but like the highest would be 70% or up. And so basically you're going through life, you're making these decisions, and the cumulative result of that, the cumulative score, is what leads to which outcome gets ultimately selected for your life. Now, I know a lot of this stuff may be speculation, but from my own personal spiritual studies, whether it be through A Course in Miracles, which is my main spiritual path, and it talks about the metaphysics of life, or my studies of Hinduism and what I've learned from their ideologies and their way of thinking about it. And this idea of, incarnations and our dharma and destiny, our destined path, which path we choose, the power of and the importance of decisions over our path and over our life. All these things have brought me to realize what those games, consciously or subconsciously, were trying to show us. And one of the main things that they were trying to show us is how important our choices are, especially during those crucial choice points to select our destiny. Our choices during those choice points can be so crucial in which one of those outcomes can be selected for our lives. And like I said, it helps to imagine that we have this beginning that's already set in stone, like before we incarnate into this physicality, into this physical body. Like we already knew prior to birth where and when and who is going to be our parents, and all those things were already set in stone. But then there's these 3 possible outcomes or endings to this game of life, or to this incarnation that we're having in this physical reality as we're perceiving it. So our choices in those crucial choice points is like they reroute us. So it's like you go, it's kind of like the way I sometimes see it also is like a pinball machine that like it hits one thing. So like you hit choice A and then you reroute, or like your pinball like reroutes to another point, and it keeps going like that. And then it's like select certain ones, basically certain choices basically keep rerouting you towards one of those select outcomes. So you come into this life with those select outcomes and the fixed beginning, and then these crucial choice points determine which one of those gets selected. Now, don't freak out, because I know when we hear this, we may think like, oh my God, what if I get it wrong? There's always a path to redemption. First of all, like there's always God, our creator, is so graceful that it always gives us grace to redeem ourselves. That's why a lot of, like, let's say alcoholics who hit rock bottom, that rock bottom moment, which seems like they're on a trajectory towards the very, very worst outcome that their life could possibly take. In that rock bottom moment, boom, like grace comes in and divine intervention comes in. And this is something that a lot of people who have followed the 12-step program, report, is that in that rock bottom moment is when the grace of God, divine intervention, like comes in, and it helps that person completely change the trajectory of their life and go from a literal hell rock bottom moment to selecting the absolute highest outcome, and basically like going to heaven, like quote unquote, like equivalent of that when it comes to the outcome, the highest outcome. So never underestimate the grace of God and the love of God to help us select and manifest our highest destiny, our highest outcome. It's just that we have to listen. And one of my future points, I'll talk about, the importance of guidance and which guidance we listen to and how to receive that guidance. So stay tuned. That's going to be, I believe, point number 4, where I talk about which guidance we end up listening to and how important that is. But basically what I wanted to say is, when you hear all this stuff and how important these choices are, especially our choices during those significant, crucial choice points, it may cause some fear in you of like, oh my God, what if I get this wrong? What if I make the wrong decisions? Well, I wanted to just encourage you to not see this as something to be afraid of, but also something that you have power over, and that it is in your power, and that your choices matter, your decisions matter over your destiny, but also feel safe to know that you have access to guidance, a deep reservoir of deep spiritual guidance that can lead you internally. Your intuition, your guidance, your gut feeling, those things can lead you. The Holy Spirit can lead you, as I would like to call it. And I will talk about that in point number 4, as I mentioned earlier. But just don't be afraid. Just know that these choices do matter, but there's always a path to redemption, and there's always guidance available that is trying to help us manifest the highest outcome. So just take away that part from that point, and let's move on to point number 3. And this is the first and foremost thing that I ever learned from those role-playing games. This was the first thing that stood out to me, and it made a light bulb go off in my mind that honestly, I would say, has led me to this point, talking to this camera and wanting to do, things like this. And point number 3, what I'm talking about is self-improvement. This is an idea that was literally implanted in my head by role-playing games. Prior to playing role-playing games, for some reason, it had never even occurred to me. And I know it was like at a time, like 14 or 15, but it had never occurred to me that I can improve in life. Like if I do something over and over again and practice, I can improve. And this is an idea that really struck me to the core, and it really shaped the rest of my life. I truly believe that, because what I do right now, sharing online what I have learned, my love for self-improvement and improving ourselves and improving our lives, my love for that began as a result of role-playing games making me realize that, now I am the character of this game. I can improve just like my character in the game can improve. And I remember there was this game that I played a lot. It was called Elder Scrolls Oblivion. This was one of my favorite games, and this was my very first exposure to an amazing role-playing game and role-playing games in general. I maybe have played some in the past, but none of those I got involved in as much as I got involved and sucked into this world of Oblivion. And in Oblivion, one thing that really was fascinating to me was how if my character in the game did a certain action a lot, their skill set in that action would improve. So like you had a list of all these different skills, like your jumping skill, your sword skill, all these different skill sets that you had. And depending on which one of those you used the most, you would improve that skill set. So for example, jumping was a skill set that your character could improve. And so the more you jumped in the game, the more your jumping skill would go up. So like, let's say you jumped like 30 times, and then you would get 1 point increase in jumping skill. And that meant that you can now jump higher. So it was really exciting to be able to like jump higher, run faster, and do those things in the game, because it made you more powerful and more competent at, you know, fighting your enemies that you're gonna face in the game. So for me, I remember one day I probably spent 6 hours just jumping, just pressing the jump button on my remote controller and making my character jump, just like for like 6 hours straight. And I maxed out my jumping ability, and then like the next day I would just like swing my sword, so, you know, just trying to increase that and basically turn my character in the game into this super, you know, badass hero kind of character. And then later when I got older, like I said earlier, I realized that now I am the character of my game, not that I can now improve just like the character in the game can improve. And I wanted to encourage you and shine that light on that concept for you as well, that whether or not, you know, you've ever played these games before, you can learn from them and how your character improves in those games, that you can be that character for your own life, that this game of life is literally a game, right? So it's like those video games were the microcosm of the macrocosm. So the macrocosm is your life, and the micro was those games, and you can learn from that and apply it to your own macrocosm of your life, and learn that you can improve, that when you practice a certain skill set, that when you put time into a certain skill and field of work and practice, that you can get better. Like for example, like when I started video editing, I sucked. Like I used to think I was amazing when I look at some of my old videos. And, you know, I've come a long way, you know, in understanding how to edit and how to do these things. And I know I still have a long way to go as well, but that was a skill set that through practicing and through believing, first and foremost, that I can do, that through practicing it, you know, I became better and better. And so can you at anything that you want to do, skill set wise. You can improve those skills. And just like in those games, when you have a higher skill set in something, that will lead you to certain opportunities that may not have been available in the past. So prior to you reaching, let's say, skill level 20 in sword fighting, you may not have had access to certain missions. But once you reach that certain skill point, then it unlocks a whole new world within the game for you to have access to. And it's kind of like that in life as well, that when we improve our skill set in a certain area, then that unlocks new possibilities and new potentials, or it helps you have higher chances of succeeding at one of those choice points that I mentioned in point number 2. So let's say you encounter a choice point in your life, and if you have a certain skill set in something, let's say you've gotten really good at coding on the computer, and you go into a job interview and it's a crucial choice point. Because of the practice that you have put into that certain skill set, then that's going to increase your chances of getting that job that is actually like your highest outcome in that choice point. So because you have practice, now you are like a better candidate for that job. So it increases your likelihood of success in that particular choice point. So it's really fascinating to think about this stuff and how they all tie in together. So the self-improvement aspect can help you increase the likelihood of selecting the highest outcome in the course of your overall life as it all comes in together. So that's it for point number 3. It's the power of self-improvement, the ability that we have in our arsenal to improve ourselves and get better at certain skill sets, and how that also leads to better outcomes in general in our lives. Point number 4, and I mentioned point number 4 in one of the earlier points, and point number 4 is about the importance of who you listen to. So in some of these games, in one of them in particular called Mass Effect, again, as I said earlier, I loved Mass Effect. I probably got more lost in this game than any other game I've ever played. Like I would wake up, play it all day, dream about it, and then play it again. It was just so immersive, and it really implanted in my mind with so many lessons and ideas about life. But basically, one of the important things in that game was that we had these advisors. So you are a leader of a team and you have these different squad members and teammates that you have, and each one has their own certain skill sets. Some are better at something, some others are better at another thing. And basically your job is to just create like the best team for different missions based on the skill sets that different people have and different personalities. And one thing that all your teammates give you, not all of them, but some of them give you during certain choice points, is advice. They all have their own unique idea and perspective as to what you should do, what would be the best course of action.
Changing their personality is the same as killing them. Who they are is gone. There's no moral difference between the two.
These are guess. Is this even a question?
Semantics. Either way, the heretics are no longer a problem.
That sounds dangerously close to indoctrination, unless there's something I'm missing. And maybe this is how AIs settle religious disputes.
Just like a board of advisors would be for a CEO, right? So they sit there and they tell you, I think we should do this, or I think we should do this. And at the end of the day, it's you as the leader of that team that has to make the decision and then live with the consequences of that decision. So in life, it's a lot similar that we have these advisors in our life. So it could be in the form of parents, teachers, co-workers, extended family, society at large, musicians, artists, movies, all these things that give you advice or try to, you could say, infiltrate your mind with a certain way of going about something. Now, it's not always like a forceful thing, but they give you advice and they think that, hey, like, I think it would be best if you do X, Y, and Z in this situation, or you do this. And so each person kind of has their own input and what they think is the best course of action for you to go forward. Now, your job is to listen, just like it's your job to be the leader of the team in Mass Effect and listen to what all your squad members tell you. Take them all in, but then at the end of the day, you have to make the decision yourself, and you have to make the decision based on what you believe is the best decision forward for everyone. And as time goes on, you get more and more discerning and better at discernment of who is giving amazing advice and good advice, and whose advice you probably should not listen to as much, or who has the best intentions at heart for you, who really wants the best for you. Now, the key thing here though is that somebody may have amazing intentions for you, but their advice may not be the best advice for you. So for example, your parents may have the best intentions for you at heart, but the advice that they give you may not be the best advice for you in particular. And that is why, as you mature and as you get older, one of the most important aspects of yourself that you should focus on improving is your ability to listen to your intuition and hear your intuition, your own inner guidance, your own inner compass, your own higher intelligence, higher faculties, your own inner knowing. That is the most important thing, that as you move forward in life, you learn that that is the best giver of advice always. Your gut feeling, that is the thing that will know the most and guide you the best in life. I like to call that the Holy Spirit. I used to call it intuition often, but as I've grown more and more accustomed to following my spiritual path, which is A Course in Miracles, I've become more comfortable with using that languaging, but it may not be the languaging for you. So that is besides the point. Whatever you want to call that aspect, that inner knowing, is up to you. But for me, Holy Spirit works. And so for me, the best advisor to listen to is the Holy Spirit, is that intuition, is that inner guidance. And so when I follow that and when I listen to that, the best outcomes get selected. And as I was saying earlier in the video in point number 2, those crucial choice points, I was encouraging you to not be afraid and know that you have access to guidance and to help. And that help comes in the form of your own intuition and your own gut feeling, or as I like to call it, in the form of the Holy Spirit, telling you, guiding you as to what choice to choose out of those options that you have in order to select your highest outcome, manifest your highest destiny in this life. So your inner knowing, the Holy Spirit, it knows the best decision in each situation for you to make. And that is why it's important to both pray and meditate in order to listen to that so that you can make sure that in each decision point that you're faced, those major decisions that you're faced, that you are practiced at listening and seeking guidance and hearing and receiving that guidance and acting upon it. So I want to encourage you and recommend to you to do two things if you want to get better at hearing your intuition. And I've made some other videos on this topic in the past. I will tag those in the description. Any video that I think will be helpful when it comes to this topic, I'll tag those in the description. But two things are really impactful when it comes to improving your ability to hear your intuition. And those two things are as followed. One is prayer, and the other thing is meditation. So prayer, in a sense, is like setting your intention and opening yourself up to receive. Then meditation is like putting yourself in that receptive posture to receive that guidance. I have videos on both of those things, so I'll just tag those right here instead of going in depth about those. So here's a video on prayer, so you can check that video out if you want to learn more about that. And I have another video that's more about being present and in the moment, but within that video, I give guidance as to how to meditate. So I'll tag that one up now. Check this video out if you want to learn more about meditation, because in a section of it, I talk about and give a practice for how to start a meditation practice. So check that one out if you want to learn more about that. But in the context of this point, meditation and prayer are so crucial and so helpful in helping us access our intuition. For me, for example, my intuition was like, I didn't hear at all for, I feel like my younger years, like, up until maybe like 21, 22, I feel like my intuition was talking to me, but I was just completely not attuned. It's like a radio station. You have to be able to tune it to the voice of your intuition, and meditation helps you attune your inner receptor, your inner receiver, to the tone or the frequency of your intuition, so you can receive that more. And as Ram Dass said, the quieter we become, the more we can hear. And basically it's talking about how the quieter we become, we can hear our intuition much better. And so these two practices, meditation and prayer together, can really help you unlock the massive benefits that come from having access to your intuition. Because like I said, these choices, these crucial choice points are so important. So wouldn't it be awesome to have our own inner advisor that knows the best decision to make in each of these situations? And it's honestly life-changing to have access to that guidance, to that intuitive knowing. And all of us have this, even if you feel like you've never heard it before internally. All of us have this, that gut feeling. It's just that a lot of us are not attuned yet to be able to hear it as well as we naturally should be able to. So just know that you have access to something that will help you make the best decisions in every decision in your life. And it's just a matter of attuning or improving your skill set in that area and being able to hear that more. So I hope that point helps you. And now let's jump into point number 5. Point number 5, your choices change how you come off to people. So there was this video game called Fable 2 that I used to play a lot back in the days. I don't know if this one is necessarily considered a role-playing game as much as some of these other ones, but it definitely had elements of role-playing games, and you had to make a lot of different choices within the game. So it may have been that, or it may have been called some other genre, but nonetheless, in this game, the choices that you made over the course of the game changed your appearance, your character's appearance in the game. So if you made good choices, kind choices, loving choices, your character would become more loving, brighter. It would start to have like a halo around his head, look like an angel. And you were basically becoming a living, walking saint within the game. On the contrary to that, if you made what the game called evil choices or bad choices, and you screwed people over in the game, or you were sneaky, doing all kinds of unintegrous things, over time those would also take their toll on your appearance, and you would become darker and darker, and your eyes would turn red, and you would grow horns out of your head, and it was like the whole appearance of you would change and become more like demonic, basically, and evil. And so that game really portrayed the power of decisions over how you come off to people. Now, in real life, it's a lot more subtle. It's not like you see someone and they look like the devil himself, you know. A lot of times, some people who have the worst intentions for you have the best appearance. So you have to be able to discern that and see the essence beyond appearance, which is really the definition of discernment. And again, that comes with what I mentioned in the previous point, which is meditation and prayer. Those two things can help you with discernment. And what I wanted to say in this point is that it's a lot more subtle how it actually happens in life, where you don't necessarily see the appearance of someone change physically. You might, but it's probably less likely. What is more likely is that the vibration that they emit, the vibe that they put off, and how they come off to you, that is what changes. So somebody who has a really negative aura or vibration, as you become more attuned to picking up on those signals, you become more receptive and discerning and sensitive to that information. So you're like, something is off about this person. You know, I may not be able to pinpoint it, but something about them feels off. You know, the vibe, they have a bad vibe. And all of us have experienced that at some point, where something just feels off about someone. Or on the opposite of that, somebody who is loving and is very kind and has very good intentions at heart for you and is very considerate, they have a peaceful aura or vibration or frequency, and they emit a loving energy. Like, for example, Jesus literally was so loving and has such a high frequency that people would just get healed in his vicinity. Like, his aura was so loving and so powerful that it would emit just loving energy all around all the time, that people just being nearby that kind of loving force, that kind of loving power and energy, they would just get healed automatically because of how powerful that love was. And so it's kind of like that's what happens depending on our choices. Like Hitler, for example, and his choices, his vibration and the way he would come off to people is a lot darker. Maybe not physically would look like maybe not physically he looks like that, but the energy that person puts off, versus someone like Mother Teresa, where when they come around, there's a healing, peaceful, calming energy and effect on others. So in life, just like in those games like Fable, your appearance and definitely your energetic appearance changes depending on your choices that you make. So these choice points, you know, they all tie in together. Not only do they determine which outcome you select at the end of the game, but they also change how you come off to people, which then in and of itself, that element of how you come off to people could also impact the availability of certain choice points or not. You know, like if you emit a really good energy, then you have an amazing impact on people, which may open up doors for you in life and really bring about opportunities that previously may not have been accessible to you. And so all of this stuff ties together, and everything that these games teach us about life, they all tie in together. And so the fifth point was just talking about how our choices impact our appearance and how we come off to people, and how we can utilize that knowledge to our own advantage and for our own betterment and the betterment of our life. So pay attention to that, and as you become more discerning and more attuned to these subtle frequencies through meditation and prayer, you will be able to be a lot more attentive to them and pick up on them a lot more easily, and you'll see this in action for yourself in life. Point number 6. What you learn in this life or in this journey, you transfer into the next one, the other one. And so this is a point that I really learned through Mass Effect. When Mass Effect 2 came out, which was like the last Mass Effect that I played personally, when Mass Effect 2 came out, this was the first time I've ever seen this happen in a game. The developers of the game gave you the option to transfer your character and everything that character of yours had learned in Mass Effect 1, so all your skill sets, all your learnings, the way your character even looked, all those things, you were able to now transfer it from the first Mass Effect into the second one. Usually, I've never seen that happen before, where you can transfer all your achievements from one game to another and then build on those. So that was the only time that I ever saw that in a game personally, but it was so cool to know that all the time and all the energy and all the skill sets that I had learned in Mass Effect 1 and that all the time I spent playing it wasn't in vain. That was very reaffirming and reassuring. But basically, the fact that I could transfer all of that to a new game and start so much further along in the journey in the game because of what I had already done. So the similarity between that and what happens in life is that if you believe in the concept of karma or reincarnation, or even the next life, either one of those things, all of this still applies. Whatever school of thought you follow when it comes to that, this applies to that. So what you learn in this life, you can compare this life to a classroom that you are learning different things, different skills, but not just skills, but spiritual skills as well. And the concept of karma, when you really learn it as it is actually taught in Hinduism, then it basically means that like whatever you learn in this life, whatever karma you accumulate, it transfers with you, with your soul into the next one. So like you start either ahead or further back in your next life. So if you really make spiritual gains in this life, then that transfers with you and is not in vain into the next life. And if you are of a more traditional Christian perspective, it transfers with you into heaven or hell, whichever one of those you believe in, whichever one of those schools of thought you believe in, it transfers. What you do in this life, it transfers into the next and carries on with you. So with that knowledge, you can set yourself up for success in the next life. You can set yourself up further ahead in the next life and know that it's never in vain the time and the energy and the effort that you put into your own spiritual evolution, and that your dedication will pay off in this lifetime and the next. So they give you rewards both in this life and in the next. And just like Mass Effect, from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, you can take what you learn in one game, in one life, into the next game or the next life. The seventh point is kind of a little bit of a mind bender, and I want to just leave you off with this one and kind of let you figure this one out for yourself and think about it a little bit more on your own. But just like when you play a video game, you have the character in the game, but the real you, as you know it, is sitting on the couch playing the game, right? So you're not in the game. So if your character in the game dies, you still live, you're still here, you're still fine, right? Or whatever money the character has in the game, it doesn't necessarily mean how much money your character has in the game. So whether it's poor or rich, it doesn't affect you, right? And so a lot of the things that happen to everything that happens to your character, it doesn't affect the real you. So there's this realization, and this is true for any game you play, that you are separate. The true you is separate from the character in the game. So you have your avatar, your representative in the game, which is your character, your player in the game, but the real you is different than that character in the game. And in life, it's actually a lot the same way. We think we are this person. We think we are this ego identity, this personal I. Like I am PJ Abadi. Like I think that's who I am. But the real me has nothing to do with the body and this identity that I think I have. Like I am PJ Abadi. That may be my name, the name of my character in the game, but that's not the real me. The real me is sitting back, completely untouched by anything that happens in this life. So it's unfazed, it's unmoved, its peace is unperturbed, it's not disturbed, and it's completely free from any limitations, from any lack, from any scarcity. It's completely abundant, it's completely sinless, it's healthy, it's whole, it's complete. And that's the true me that's sitting back outside of the game, watching me in the game, watching this character or playing this character in the game, but it's not it. So my spirit and our spirit is actually the real player or the character behind the character that we think we are. We think we are this ego identity. You think you are you, I think I am me. But beyond that duality, there is an identity that is rooted in oneness, and that oneness cannot be touched, it cannot be disturbed, it cannot be messed with, and who you really are is always safe outside of the game, just like you are safe when you're playing the game. So whatever happens to your character in the game, even if it gets shot and killed in the game, you're still fine. Nothing happens to you. Your character could die 1,000 times in the game and come back and you're still here, you're fine. And so that's how it is with this life as well. And this is a super spiritual, metaphysical perspective that I don't expect you to necessarily buy into, the first time you hear it. But as you dive deeper and deeper and deeper into your spirituality and into yourself, really, you start to understand that you're really just the character or the avatar in this game for something greater than yourself. And when you become aware of that, you can sync up with that and consciously choose to work in concert with that and select that highest outcome in the game and succeed and win in this game of life. And I don't mean that just on a materialistic level. I mean that on a spiritual level, where you win and ace this game of life, and then you move to the next one, like Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, and you start further, much further along in the path. And so you're setting yourself up for the success in the next as well as this life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was really fun for me to make because it was revisiting a big part of my childhood personally and reminding me of some of these games that I have a lot of awesome memories with and that I have learned so much from. So it was super joyful for me to make this video for you, and I hope you enjoyed it and gained as much from it as I have from those games. If you would like help with anything that I mentioned in this video or anything that I talk about in general on my channel, please check out the link in the description, as I have started doing one-on-one coaching with you that is personalized for you and your needs and your goals and your dreams in this life and what you want to accomplish. And I want to help you overcome whatever limiting beliefs or obstacles are in your way of accomplishing and achieving that now, whether it be spiritually, physically, mentally, or financially, or whatever other areas of your life you may be concerned with now. If you want help in any of those or with anything that I talked about in this video, please make sure you check out the link in the description and apply for one-on-one coaching with me. I'm super excited to see you within that container, as no matter how much I say in a video or how much I share, it will never be as personalized as it can be for you. And so the videos are more of a one-size-fits-all. But in that container, in that one-on-one coaching session, we can go a lot deeper, personalized for you, and that will for sure lead you to get a lot further than any of these YouTube videos can or I can ever do in this video format. So I hope to see you guys in that. If you enjoyed, again, the video, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos like this. And if you liked it, then give it a thumbs up so that YouTube shows it to more people. Thank you guys for checking this out, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care.